Hey, what's up guys? So we have the March 2013 ban list in effect right now, and everyone's been asking, what card should I side deck against this deck? There are so many different decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. There's not really one deck that kind of trumps over all of them. Although Mermails is probably a relevant deck that can OTK faster than really any deck. Now, windups are still very popular, but that said, let's jump right into it. I'm going to explain some of the choices of, what cards are good against certain decks, but also your deck might not be able to utilize all these cards. Like, for example, if you're playing something like Dark Worlds, you probably don't want to side deck Macrocosmos. That should be a no-brainer, but I had people say, I don't really want to side deck these exact 15 cards. These are not the exact 15 cards. I've had more cards up here just because, the side deck only allows you to put 15 cards in, and I put in a variety of cards to kind of explain. But yeah, let's jump right into it. So first off, Messenger of Peace. It's a fantastic card against certain decks, like, for example, like windups. Like, they can't really do much to this. Early on into the game, obviously MST is a card, but, it just makes them, use an MST. Same thing with Dino Rabbit. Everything in Macro Rabbit is pretty much over the attack of 1500 or more, so it's just good against that deck as well. Now, next up, Decree. If you're playing a deck like Dark Worlds or something that, it can't let macro stay up on the field, you might want to side deck Decrees, or maybe if you want to push really hard, maybe a Trap Stone that can be also a good option for you there. Next up, Maxi, just because Mermails are still a very popular deck. Well, nothing got hit in that deck, but windups are still very viable, it just topped. So, Maxi is still a very viable card. And then an Effect Veiler, sometimes I kind of like this card against the Fire Fist, but there's also another card that is great against Fire Fist, which I want to talk about, which is Overworked. However, I would say Veiler is a more versatile card. You can side deck this. I mean, if you play against Inzectors, hey, this card's awesome. But, there are other decks that you can, use Effect Veiler, like Dragoonides. You can, if you randomly play against Dragoonides or something else, Veiler will be a lot more viable. Whereas, Overworked might not be more viable. Like, this card probably not so great against Inzectors, although you technically can use it against Inzectors because most of the time it does boost their attack. Next up, Tragodia, or like Threatening Roar, or maybe like a Swift Scarecrow or something like that. There are so many decks that like to OTK, and I think that like T-Roar, Tragodia, or something to keep yourself alive when your opponent goes for game, because Mermails can OTK you really fast, and if you don't have like a Tragodia drop in response, you might just lose that game, or Gorz or something like that. But Gorz is at 1, and I would say most decks probably main deck that card anyways. But if you're not, T-Roar is definitely a good option, or Tragodia, or like I said, Swift Scarecrow. Battle Fader is a good card as well. The only thing I don't like with Battle Fader is you can Solemn Warning that card, so keep that in mind, whereas you cannot Solemn Warning a card like Swift Scarecrow. Next up, Snowman Eater. This card is a fantastic card against Macro Rabbit because, you set it and they go Logia and you go, oh, hey, I got a Snowman Eater. See you later, Logia. Pretty good card. Probably one of the best side deck cards, I would say, in my opinion, against that deck, because it doesn't matter if they already have, Logia face up. Also, Thunder King. This card destroys spellbooks. Spellbooks will get much more popular once Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy comes out, and this also stops, them from going Tenki. So I think it's a pretty good card. Plus, Thunder King is amazing, and it's very versatile against a lot of stuff like windups. I hate this card. Anything that like wants to search, like Spellbooks is kind of where it's at. But if you summon this first turn against like a Macro Rabbit player, it's still a decent card. The only downside to it is sometimes they go Sabersaurus Crash, and that's a bummer for you. But hey, it happens. Next up, Gozen Match. This is good against I would say windups, and pretty good against Macro Rabbit. Although I personally like Bottomless. Like, I like to Bottomless both the monsters that come out. But Gozen Match is definitely a great card if you already main deck Bottomlesses. But there are some other decks like that could maybe utilize Gozen Match as well. Like for example, what's something that plays like Dark Worlds? They don't really care. Everything that they have is all the same. There's also Rivalry of Warlords. If you're running Samurais, you can play that because everything is warriors in there. Next up, Mind Crush. Now, Mind Crush is awesome because before High Priestess gets special summoned by Revealing 3 or Abyss Megalo, they have to reveal it and you can Mind Crush it. Same with Wind Up Shark. That's also another great card. And I like this because if they are playing Spellbooks and then like they go for their first turn, they go for the Herp Dirt play Judgment, Spellbook Judgment. And then you set this card, and on their turn, as soon as they start their turn, you just go, oh, do you have High Priestess in your hand? Oh, you do? Well, you can wait till they reveal it, but, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's best to just wait for them to reveal it, because they're going to do it anyways, and then you just Mind Crush it. And then, if they have multiple copies, they all go to the grave. They'll probably will Spellbook of Life it, but hey, you get to get rid of multiple copies, and if you do, Mind Crush is a pretty awesome card. Next up, Spirit Reaper. Now, I kind of don't like this card against some of the matchups, but it's definitely still a good card against something like Macro Rabbit or any like slower deck that can't really deal with this. But with decks like Fire Fist, Fire Kings, they don't really care about Spirit Reapers. They're just gonna pop it, so that's why I don't really like Spirit Reaper that much. But it's still a very viable card against something like Dino Rabbit. Next card up, Soul Taker. Now, Chaos Dragons haven't been doing so hot. I mean, I do believe they still have been topping some regionals and stuff. But, it is a good card. And, I mean, not that heroes are really relevant anymore. I mean, it's an okay deck. But heroes lose to Compulse. And I think Compulse, which is the next card we're going to talk about, is an amazing card. But Soul Taker causes cards like Shining, Light Pulsar Dragon to miss the timing. So those will not get their effects. So that's why Soul Taker is a pretty good card. Next up, Compulse, which I think is a fantastic card because, it's never really a dead card unless they have, like, Royal Decree on the field. But I think Compulse is just overall probably one of the best trap cards in the game right now, other than like the Solemn Warnings. Solemn Warning, because it's only at 1 now. But yeah, I think this card is definitely a great replacement for Solemn Warning, like the second one. But yeah, probably Compulse. I would say, there's not really a deck that, Compulse doesn't really do anything against. I mean, I guess maybe Lightsworn. I mean, if they're going to summon JD, you can put it back to their hand. They're just going to special summon it again. But I think Compulse is still unarguably a very good card because it's one of the cards that's super trainable. Next up, Macrocosmos. Again, if you're playing Dark World, this card you probably don't want because it hurts you a lot more than it probably hurts your opponent. But even if you're playing something like Agents, if you're playing Agents and you like to have the graveyard still, if you activate Macrocosmos against a Dark World player, they cannot really do anything. Whereas an Agent player can still special summon the Shine Balls, special summon the Hyperions and stuff like that. But yeah, Macrocosmos is a pretty good card against, I would say, Mermails, Dark World, maybe those Fire Kings sometimes. I don't know. That's kind of like an iffy card sometimes, in my opinion, against that because they can. What do they have? They still have that Thunderbolt Fire Dog, and that card is annoying to deal with, and sometimes they just make other things and then just get rid of it. But I still think it's a decent card against some of the matchups. Like Mermails and Dark World is the most relevant. And then we have Overworked, which is pretty good against Fire Fist because all of their little Tenkis and Tensus and Tenkins and all those little things that boost those attacks, you just bam, destroy each monster whose attack is higher than its original attack. So bam, gets rid of all of them. Pretty awesome stuff right there. And then there's more cards right here. Not to say that these cards are not as good as these cards, but I would say more of these down below are kind of more relevant in the meta. But over here we have Droll and Lockbird. Actually, this card's expensive now. But anyways, so if your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard for the rest of the turn. Neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand. So that, counts something like, Judgment, the spellbook card, is just like, no more adding, my turn. It's pretty awesome. But, it's not a tuner, it's only level 1, so, like, there's really few things you can do with it. Because, like, what I feel with Veiler, though, like, even if, like, they're not playing anything, at least it's a tuner plus it's a light, so pretty awesome stuff with that. But they're both spellcasters, so you can make Arcanite Magician, maybe. Anyways, Swift Scarecrow. Again, going back to the idea that some decks can really OTK you, and if you're afraid of, maybe Mermails OTKing you, maybe you just cannot play Tragoedia for whatever reason or something like that, you don't have it, Swift Scarecrow is an option just because, again, the idea is to prevent those OTKs, or Threatening Roar. I mean, that got reprinted as a secret rare, so that card shouldn't be too hard to get. But yeah, just preventing your opponent from OTKing is always an option if your opponent is playing a certain deck that likes to OTK, such as Mermails. Next up, Fiendish Chain. Now, this card is... It's kind of like Compulse. It's not really a dead card. The only thing that I have to say with Fiendish Chain, which isn't as good as Compulse, obviously they can MST this, where if they MST your Compulse, you can chain Compulse, which is awesome. But the thing with Fiendish Chain is the monster is still on the field, and if you need to attack over maybe let's say a Grapha. It's got 3,000 attack. It's still a problem. Whereas Compulse, you can bounce back. The Grapha maybe just attack for game. Whereas Fiendish Chain, you don't have that option. Next up, Dust Tornado, Trap Stun. Going back to the whole decree thing, if they're siding in cards that you don't like say for example like Macro or something like that, you might want to side deck Decree, Dust Tornadoes. Maybe if you're playing a deck like maybe X Saber, something that you're going for game. Even Windups can definitely make use of Trap Stun. You just go for game. Any of the decks where you can go for game and you're not really afraid of your opponent having anything, maybe because I know Windups can definitely side deck Defissure, so then you don't have to worry about like a Maxi or a Veiler disrupting your play. And you just go, oh, it's cool, activate Defissure, activate Trap Stun, go for game. And unless they have like Book of Moon or something, you should be able to game them still. Next up, Tiger King Wangu. Now I love this card because it hits a lot of stuff. Because Windups, there's very few things that are 1400 less that they would just want to summon. So I mean, like other than like Shark is about the only one. They can't go like Magician Shark you anymore because they summon Magician. Bam, Magician's dead because Magician has low attack. What does Magician have? It's wind dash up. I forgot what Magician's attack was. Off the top of my head, I know it's low. It's 600, yeah, but it's got high defense. So I mean, they could technically set it, but you know, when your opponent's setting card, it's always slow. So you know, Tiger King still kind of does the job. Plus, against if you happen to match up against Frog Monarchs, I know that deck, it's no one's really like stop playing that deck. That deck always sees a small amount of play just because nothing's hit and everything got reprinted. But yeah, I mean, the Summon Trio Frog, it gets destroyed immediately. And I think this card is definitely an awesome card. If you want to combo it with Burden of the Mighty, it is pretty cool. But I think this is a card I personally like. Against some random decks, it's not bad. If you're going to any like Synchro plant deck, this card is just amazing because they can't summon anything, which is very annoying to deal with. Next up, DD Crow. You can banish Graphas. You can hit Hornets. Not that Inzectors are too popular right now, but there's still people that play Inzectors, so it's a great card to hit key cards. And also you can hit Graphas. The Fire King Garunix, you can hit that card when it goes to the grave when it's destroyed by the Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Really fantastic card. And then Cyber Dragon, and if you side in Cyber Dragon, you're going to want this card as well. Fortress in your extra deck. This is the card where basically you use Cyber Dragon plus one or more machine type monsters, and you can use your opponent's field too. So if your opponent has like a Girga X and maybe a Machina Fortress, you can use all of their cards plus your Cyber Dragon. So you just need Cyber Dragon plus all their cards, and you can maybe fusion for like a huge attacker. Maybe this thing might have 5,000 attack. Pretty awesome stuff, and it kind of clears their board, and it's nice. It's a very nice card against certain decks, like anything that's machine. Like Karakuri, I believe that decked in tops, so maybe we'll see a little bit more of Karakuris. But yeah, Cyber Dragon, fantastic card. Next up, Mirror Force is awesome against Mermails. If it's activated at the right time, you could win. Because if they go for like Big Eye, take your monster, and you just go Mirror Force, and surprise, they can really lose. Like, if they go all in, like, a lot of players will net deck Billy Breaks a deck card for card, and if they don't have that, like, Lance, and you Mirror Force at the correct time, and they lose, like, their Abyss Gaios, they lose, they usually go for, like, 2 level 7s, like, they're using a whole bunch of cards in their hand because they think they can go for game. Maybe they like Big IU too, so they can go for game. And you Mirror Force them at the correct time, you will win that game. I've seen a lot of that happen when the Mermail player will push too hard when there's multiple back row and they don't pop the back row and they just try to go for game. And Mirror Force goes high and it kind of ruins it because Mermails is not a deck I would say that you can really top deck in. You have to have multiple cards in your hand to make plays in. But lastly, well, I mean, unless you draw like Salvage or Pot of Avarice, then yeah, of course, you get more cards. But next up we have Soul Drain. Now this is a pretty good card against Mermails. The only downside to this versus Macro is that it doesn't banish them, so that is unfortunate. But you have to also pay 1,000, which I don't really like. But if you need that graveyard, because for example, like Agents, their cards effects don't happen in the graveyard, so Hyperion obviously works on the field, and you're banishing from the graveyard, and this only stops the monsters in the graveyard that, what is it? Let me read the card for you word for word. So you activate it by paying 1,000 life points. Monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects that start a chain. So all the Dark World's effects start a chain, all the Mermail's effects start a chain. So side this against Mermails and Dark World if you cannot play Macrocosmos. Like if you need your graveyard, like Light's Horns, you might need your graveyard. So hey, Soul Drain is definitely a better option over Macrocosmos. But I hope this helps you guys out, get a better idea of what you should side deck at your locals, your tournaments. Keep in mind that depending on what deck you're playing, maybe you want to play, I was going to say triple Thunder King, but you can't do it now because for whatever reason they decided Thunder King was... It is an amazing card, but I just feel like, why is Thunder King at 2? But like if you have a bad matchup against Danareb, by all means, do not copy exactly what I put here, because sometimes I have players go, wait, why do I only want to side deck one Summon Eater? Don't you think 2 is good? This is not the exact side deck that you want to play. You don't need to play every single one of these. Depending on your matchups. Like, say for example, you really hate Dino Rabbits, you always lose to that deck. Hey, put in 2-3 Snowman Eater. By all means, throw in a Spirit Reaper too. Maybe 2 Spirit Reaper against Dino Rabbit. Maybe you just don't like that deck. Maybe you can side in multiple Dust Tornadoes if you're really afraid of Macrocosmos. By all means, customize it to your liking, because every player plays differently. Maybe I really like this card like Trap Stun and X Sabers. Maybe you prefer a card like 7 Tools of Bend. Hey, that's definitely cool. But yeah, keep it to your liking. You don't have to copy exactly what I have up here. But if you have any other great cards that are used in side deck that are relevant against a lot of the top tier decks, let me know in the comment section below, and maybe I'll update this in the future once we have other decks that come out as well, because the meta is always changing because we have new packs that come out all the time. But yeah, hope this helps you guys out getting ready for those tournaments, and you can have a better idea of what to side deck against what deck. But anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Asian Eyes signing out.